Leaving home from Queenston and the Red Hill area, I frequently lament the poor planning and design principles I observe along my daily route to and from the coffee shop. Big box stores for the eye can see, likewise, seas of parking. Little attempt is given to diversify land uses along this stretch, creating a fractured sense of belonging. However, I think we can all agree as planners that the Strode model is dated and ineffective. I did not want to simply remodel both Lime Ridge and Eastgate after all. So I elected to take the road less traveled. Fortunately, it was only one over. The site includes those lands encompassing Dover Park and the Sir Isaac Brock Adult Learning Center and Daycare Center in Stony Creek, bounded by Teresa Street to the west, Dover Drive to the north, and the Greenfield Drive to the east. The site runs parallel to and connects with the large swaths of big box commercial and parking lots along Queenston Road to the north. It is further bounded by the major urban arterials of Nash Road and Centennial Parkway North to the west and east respectively, and King Street East to the south as part of the neighborhood's fused modified grid typology. Notable local points of interest include St. Joe's Hospital, King Campus, Eastgate Mall, Sir Isaac Brock Adult Learning Center, St. David Catholic Elementary School, Viola Desmond Elementary School, Glendale Secondary School, the Hamilton Public Library, Red Hill Branch, and is served by transit lines along Queenston, Nash, Centennial, and King Streets, respectively. The neighborhood is largely unremarkable in its form and design. Homes are all very similar, retaining hallmarks of when they were built, some older, some newer, all samey. What is remarkable about this stretch of neighborhood is the extent to which it attempts purposeful hostility to the pedestrian. Flooded sidewalks that disappear, closed walkways, fast-moving vehicles, and many more issues that we shall discuss later. For now, take a walk with me as we attempt to identify some strengths and plentiful weaknesses through site analysis. During my walk through, the initial time that I set foot in this neighborhood and the sorts of ideas that I was jotting down, we were really going through a qualitative site analysis. And this was based off of our landmarks, our landscaping. It's really also everything that I've discussed up until now. But upon review, we need to take a more quantitative approach. Ergo, the SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. During our walk, the revision, we will lump our observations into each of these categories so we may better identify potential solutions. Let's begin. Here we see a stairway linking the commercial areas along Queenston to our neighborhood that is closed for the winter. This is an inherent weakness of the site, that its connectivity is compromised this time of year. A new, pre-existing parquet on the site is a strength, as any plans do not need to consider playground structures in their design. Some rather unsightly fencing along the perimeter of Dover Park represents a current weakness and future opportunity for the site. There is clearly a desire for delineation of the site. Perhaps consideration should be given to a landscaping solution to obtain the same result. Come on, need I say more? I shall. There is clearly insufficient traffic calming measures in this neighborhood. Stop signs are treated as a suggestion, and speed limits too, because the design of the space elicits complicity. This is a weakness. Any potential redesign must consider road safety measures as part of the suite of changes. While we're here, let's discuss the state of the road. They are wide, and this represents an opportunity for any future enhancements, but they're also in rather poor condition. This is an inherent weakness, but repaving projects are also an excellent time to consider improvements. Here we see some flooding of the road and sidewalk, no doubt contributing to the poor state of the road network in this area. If not addressed, any future roadway will continue to be plagued by winter wear and tear, which represents a weakness of this site. It will be very expensive to remediate by, say, raising the road to prevent runoff from the park. We noticed some shoddily made, poorly maintained soccer fields, but soccer fields nonetheless. This is a strength of the site. We do have programming, but also a threat. Any new proposal needs to consider the current uses of the site and not stray too far from its current purpose. As I stumble through the uncleared desire path, one sees the lack of planning for the site given its central location and the importance of connectivity. There is no path to the townhomes across the park, necessitating any would-be traveler a long trip around. Should you take the desire path as evidenced by the footprints, there's a fence on the other side. This is a major weakness of the site and will be a focal point for any solutions. This particular walkthrough occurred midday February 26, 2025. This individual is one of the few pedestrians I saw in three separate instances of filming. In fact, there weren't really many cars either. This is a quiet neighborhood that clearly lacks incentive for change or anything that may disrupt the status quo. This is a threat to any redevelopment as that inherently brings change. The lack of a crosswalk adjacent to a school is disappointing, but not surprising. Paint and a stop sign only go so far without further protections. Raised sidewalks, speed bumps, lane narrowing, enclosure through landscaping being examples. But it would be better than nothing. Weakness. Here is a school with programming for both adults and children and a daycare attached. It is strange to call a school a weakness, but for our property and not society, it is. We have to be very considerate of how changes will affect the school, both for its current and future operations. However, it is also an opportunity, as improvements to the public realm and neighborhood safety are hard to argue against when it is for the benefit of our local school systems. I did not expect to see this in suburban Stony Creek. Good on you. We have a bike route planned out. How could this not be a strength, helping improve the connectivity of the site? Further, in terms of opportunity, there's clearly a desire in this area for bike infrastructure, so that is something that should be capitalized upon in any project. Ah, you almost had me. Painted bike gutter in the middle of the road. Good old North American car-centric half-baked bicycle appeasements. Better than nothing doesn't save this from being a weakness. A freshly painted crosswalk, stop signs. It's no protected interchange, but it's the best one yet. That's a strength for me. Oh, come on. Before we move on, equally important as to what we did see is what we didn't. There was very little in the way of public realm here. Benches, trash cans, lighting, the sorts of small improvement that tie a community together. It is a weakness that we should consider as an easy fix in our next steps. I chose the site because it was close, a small detour from my regular route. Very quickly, I was able to see how things can go downhill. Common issues we identified in the SWOT analysis were safety, connectivity, and lack of community. Therefore, the goals of this effort to reimagine the site will include modern traffic calming initiatives, a viable connection through the middle of the site to the neighborhood across the park with some added amenities, bike lane installation, and general public realm improvements. Let's do this walk one more time with that in mind. We cannot have this roadway and sidewalks flooding like this. It's an impediment to safety and connectivity. A two-lane bike path on the side of the street less prone to flooding. A concrete barrier or knockdown bollards provide safety to cyclists while enclosing our wide road in such a way that deters speeding. Finally, the bread and butter of safety enhancements, protected crosswalks. Raised sidewalk from one side to the other at all intersections of this stretch. And where causeways are long, maybe a speed bump or two. Children at play signs and the like. This will go a long way to improving safety and creating a culture of care, rather than that of driver indifference we noticed earlier. Of course, I'm not a graphic designer, so perhaps take me at my word and not by the renderings. Moving on, let's address the issue of the lack of connectivity between either side of the neighborhood. We want to do this in a way that will cause residents to actually want to use the site, to bring them together. Here we have a smaller pavilion. It could be much larger, maybe some picnic tables on the periphery or a splash pad. Ultimately, the exact programming would be up to the residents. If we build something, we are committing to maintaining it ad infinitum. Therefore, it needs to be something the community will actually benefit from, and that should be their decision. Therefore, take the rendering with a grain of salt. Similarly, we have some improvements to the public realm to consider. Honestly, the winter landscape really undercuts the viability of the renderings. These may be more appropriate for the summer months. Nonetheless, the idea here is what matters. Instead of an ugly fence that is falling over, let's include some landscaping. I included a greenhouse. I'm not sure how realistic that is, but there's plenty of space in these median areas for some sort of communal garden setup. Finally, some benches and a garbage can round out the simple amenities that a community may come to take for granted. It's sometimes dumbfounding how many things in our community we can improve and simply choose not to. I had many other ideas even in the course of just making this project. Public art displays along Dover Drive or the pathway that I envisioned, more aesthetic lighting, much needed improvements to housing capacity, type, tenures, and design, frankly. Much of these ideas are brought from outside inspiration as you're currently witnessing, some with really lofty goals that would be difficult to replicate in such a sprawly suburban context, some of which are completely backwards in their motives, looking at you, Sanic BC. But overall, there isn't too much that's completely outlandish here. The roads will have to be fixed eventually, so we should look forward to other improvements we can make at the same time to improve efficiency, benefit people's lives, and save their tax dollars. More importantly, we should take those steps that are feasible now and actually do something. Not everything needs to be a multi-million dollar project. Sometimes it's painting bike lanes where there aren't any as a temporary affordable solution. It could be a community effort to erect slow kids at play signs. It could be someone taking the initiative in starting a community farm, or petitioning the city for garbage cans and benches along the periphery of the park. Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither is this city or its many great neighborhoods. Let's remember that root word, neighbor, as we seek to improve the local living situation for our peers and for those who come after us. Thank you.